All right, everybody, Rob Ferretti here at Gotham Dream Cars in Teaneck, New Jersey, and we're going to talk about a lovely woman named Natalia Zelina, who I just saw in the Business Insider article about starting with one car on Turo and now 69 cars with a fleet of exotics. Lovely photograph of her standing there with a fleet of exotics behind her, and you start to dream, right? It's like, you know what? If she can do it, so can I. Well, not so fast, because you can't really trust the news. And it's sad that there's an institution like Business Insider who's putting out an article which doesn't really contain anything, but the stuff that it does contain allows me to deduce things. And I'm going to break it down for you right now. You're reading this article saying this woman went from one car to now full-time Turo rental, and she's living the dream. She's got 3 Ferraris, 3 Lamborghinis, 3 Rolls Royces. At least this is what's pictured there. She's got a fleet of them. She's living in a high-rise apartment in Florida somewhere and having a great time, vacationing 5 times a year. Well, not so fast, because the numbers here just don't add up. And let me break it down for you. All right. I had to write it down just to break it down in my head as I'm going through the article. I'm only taking the stuff that I got from the article or just a generic Google search. She does $922,225 in verified revenue from Turo. That you would assume is a net figure, not a gross figure, which means Turo has already taken their cut. Their cut is anywhere between 40% and just say 12%, depends. There's other factors there. Let's just say 20% just to be safe. So she's doing $100,000 a month in rentals. Nets out to $922,225, and you sit there and you say, that's got to be nice, right? She's making $1 million a year almost renting cars through a third-party platform. So that gives you the idea that maybe I should do that. Well, I'm going to tell you why maybe it's not as good as it looks. She's got 69 cars. I'm just going off of the photos. I don't know what her fleet looks like. I didn't look up her profile on Turo. I don't care. She's got 15 exotics at least pictured. You're talking my box, 3 Rolls Royces, 3 Lamborghinis, 3 Ferraris. I mean, you add these things up, they're sizable, like Aventadors and 458 Spiders and Rolls Royce Dawns. These cars are significantly over $200,000, but for the purposes of my math, I'm going to give all the numbers. I'm going to give her the best opportunity here of being to see if this can work, if this is something that you should be able to do. So I just said all of her exotic cars are worth $200,000 a piece, right? 15 of them at $200,000 a piece. That's very low. It's probably more than that. It's $3 million bucks. So she's got at least $3 million in exotic cars. Then if she's got 69 cars, it means she's got 55 other cars. And let's just say on the low side, just a $50,000 average, right? That's another $2.75 million. That's $5.75 million in cars. Since she's not a rental company, I would assume that she would be paying sales tax on those vehicles in the fine state of Florida. That is $345,000. Let's just, for the simple math, round it off to $6 million bucks, right? And you can borrow against that $6 million. It's not practical, but you could borrow against that $6 million. She has, from the article, 3 employees. I'm going to assume the employees make $500 a week. That's low, very, very low. That's $2,000 a month per employee, not including herself. We're going to net out what's left, and that's what she's going to take home from this $922,000. That is $6,000 a month in labor costs without workers' comp or anything like that. Let's pretend like that none of that exists. $72,000 a year, right? She says she has the entire parking garage, entire front lower level of a parking garage. Because she has such volume, she's able to only pay $150 a month, which is very, very cheap. And that, in turn, allows people to come in, see the cars, and maybe rent another car in the future, maybe look for an upsell. All good things, right? You're on the lot, you got them there, they see other stuff, it gets them excited. $150 a car times 69 cars is $10,350 a month in parking, which is $124,200 per year, right? She took on a partner, Magic City Motors. I don't know what that is, or I tried to look up. There's 1 million Magic City dealerships. Let's just say her investor put in some money, but we'll leave the investor out of this for a moment. So she's got the employees, she's got the fleet, which is $6 million, which you would think requires a down payment of a minimum of 20%. It's $1.2 million. Let's just say $1 million, and that's where the investor came in, right? He gave $1 million to get this fleet. He's going to want to return on his money. We'll get there. This is all, as you're starting to hear these numbers, not making sense. So we've got $922,000, less labor of $72,000, less a facility cost. And that's just if there's no other overhead, just that parking charge of $124,000. Interest on $5 million. Just say she's borrowing $5 million of the $6 million because she had $6 million. She probably wouldn't be renting cars on Turo. At a very minimum, right? Like, and this is like the gift of the gift of the gift. Nobody's borrowing at this. But let's just say she's borrowing at 5%. It's $250,000 per year in interest. Won't get into depreciation. Let's just say maintenance. She's got 70 cars, maybe a set of tires per car per year, some other oil changes and whatnot. 69 cars, remember. Let's just say, and some of them are Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Rolls Royces. None of that stuff is cheap. Let's just say it's $100,000 a year in maintenance. And that's not counting insurance costs. Now, insurance cost, if she's got 69 cars on a commercial policy worth $6 million, I promise you her commercial policy is at least $500,000 a year, $500,000. I don't think she's doing that. I think she's relying on Turo's insurance, but you still have to have the cars registered to drive on the road. So the cars are registered and insured. They're probably insured in a personal policy. Let's just say $100,000, right? That's low. That's like $1,200 or $1,300 or whatever, $1,300 a car, $1,400 a car for 70 cars. And that's including Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Maybachs. None of these cars are being insured for $1,000 a year, but we'll just average them all out. And the biggest thing that you're not factoring in as far as costs go, you have $6 million in cars. The pandemic made everybody think you could buy cars and make money on them all day long because they go up in value. Well, that has changed. So now having $6 million in cars, regardless of where the funding came from, regardless of where the down payment came from, regardless of who's lending her the money, regardless of who's insuring, $6 million in cars in the industry or anywhere else, it's safe to depreciate them 5 years to zero, right? Whether or not they're going to be worth zero after 5 years, completely different story. But she's got these cars going out, getting a lot of miles. 5 years to zero is a very, very standard depreciation model. So she's losing $1 million a year on $6 million in depreciation. Now you start doing the math. $922,000 top line revenue, right? And we're assuming that's net, not gross. Minus $72,000 for labor, minus $124,000 for her facility for parking, minus $250,000 for interest on the loan. That's if it was an interest-only loan, which it isn't. $1 million a year in depreciation, $100,000 in maintenance leaves you, and obviously I'll do this before the insurance, leaves you at a negative $623,975 for this budding business. If you factor in personal insurance, she's losing $723,000 a year. You factor in a commercial policy, she's losing $975,000, almost $1.2 million off of her revenue. Why does this make sense? Why is this in the news, right? Because you go look at the news and you're like, wow, I should probably do that. Well, because people make professional decisions to brand stuff. There is a way to effectively buy yourself media exposure. And I don't know why people do it. I looked this woman up. She wrote, like, she did all the other stuff. She was in a marketing company. She tried doing a fitness app. Fitness app has since shut down. She brought that up in the article. I looked her up. She's got 3 books on Amazon for cooking books with 3 reviews on them. So, like, she hasn't really done anything substantial. How she's become this, like, poster child, other than a lovely photo with a bunch of cars in the background for going on Turo, using personal loans and whatnot, none of it makes sense. This is not a business. This is not something you should aspire to. This is not something that should be published in Business Insider. Now, is Business Insider the end-all of media? Is media trustworthy to begin with? No, not really. You can believe half of what you read. But the slightest amount of journalistic integrity, the story says nothing, right? The slightest amount of journalistic integrity, this isn't a story. It doesn't add anything up. It doesn't calculate anything. It doesn't state anything. It just says, it's almost like a little fluff piece. You can do that by getting a PR firm or even submitting your own information for them to then quote unquote vet, and you can pay them to effectively do an article on you. And I think that's what this is. So don't think that this is your future. If you want to put something on Turo, I'm not saying don't do it, but do it with the $5,000 cars, the $10,000 cars. That's the money makers, not the Lambos and the Ferraris that you're renting for less than everybody else. This is such a backwards idea that this is even plausible. For her to have 70 cars and only generate $1 million a year in revenue is mind-blowing, right? A fleet of 70 cars. I do significantly more revenue than that with 15 cars. So why would you have 70 cars? She's got more exotics than I do, and she's doing a fraction of the revenue. Doesn't make any sense. So don't believe what you read, especially if it's in the news. And a lot of people do this. A lot of people care about what everybody thinks about them. And whether that allows them to get somewhere else in life, who the hell knows? It's that whole fake it till you make it thing. But they think news articles legitimize them, which is why that little ecosystem exists where you can buy yourself PR through media outlets. Not the best way to go. Don't buy media. Don't follow her example. I wish her well. I hope there's something I'm missing. She's more than welcome to email me, rob@superspeeders.com, and tell me what I'm missing. Maybe they're advertising her net figure after all costs, but that would mean she's got to be making $3 million a year off of Turo net in order to offset all those expenses to clear $1 million. Even if she was making, if you're doing anything, any business, you should have at least a 20% margin, right? Very simple. So off of $900,000, you should have $200,000 in profit. I don't see it. There's no way it's possible with all these vehicles, with all the logistics, with all the ancillary expenses, right? She's got 3 employees. There's got to be something that they're doing washing cars. I don't see any. I didn't factor in any car wash. I didn't factor in any fuel expense. The number that you're listing from Turo probably includes everything she got from Turo. That's how they were able to verify that number. So that means if somebody popped a tire or anything like that, that's all included in that. It's not a business. Rob Ferretti, use your head. I hate to be the one to have to do it. I'm not trying to blow up her spot, but this is a very silly thing to see. And I hope you guys understand why, with just a little basic math, you can sniff this stuff out and you don't fall victim to spending your own time and money trying to replicate somebody else's non-success. I wish her bankruptcy well.